Ready to peel back the layers of love, sex, and everything in between? Welcome to Love Soul Connection, where we get down and dirty with the nitty gritty of intimacy. Join us as we ignite the spark, untangle the knots, and discover the secrets to truly epic love. Get ready to laugh, learn, and maybe even blush a little. Let's get intimate. Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the Love Soul Connection podcast. I'm your host, Meeta, your trusted love and intimacy coach, and today's episode is going to get deep, raw, and honest. We are tackling something that affects all women, yet it's often shrouded in silence: the myths around women's sexuality. For centuries, women's sexuality has been surrounded by layers of misinformation, stereotypes, and cultural taboos. These myths not only shape how society views us as women, but also influence how we view ourselves, our desires, our bodies, and our pleasure. Think about it for a second. How many of us have grown up believing that sex is something shameful, that it's more about giving than receiving, or that it's something we lose control of as we age? It's like carrying around invisible baggage that we didn't even know we were packing. In today's episode, we are going to unpack that baggage. We are going to shed light on some of the most common myths about women's sexuality that have been passed down through generations. And more importantly, we'll talk about how these myths impact our confidence, our relationships, and our ability to fully express ourselves. These myths are not just outdated, they are limiting, and it's time to rewrite that narrative. We'll dive into topics like why women are often seen as passive participants in their sexual lives, why there's this pressure to always be the pleaser, and why society tells us that as we age, our sexuality should just fade away. Spoiler alert, it doesn't. But here's the thing: we can't break free from these limiting beliefs if we don't first recognize them. And that's exactly what we are going to do today: recognize, challenge, and then replace these myths with truths that empower us. So, whether you've struggled with sexual confidence, you have felt guilt about your desires, or simply you want to better understand your own sexual identity, this episode is for you, my dear women. By the end of this conversation, I want you to feel more in tune with your sexuality, more confident in your body, and ready to embrace all the pleasure, joy, and power that comes with it. All right, let's get started on this journey of self discovery and empowerment. One of the oldest and most damaging myths is the idea that women are passive when it comes to sex and desire. For centuries, society has reinforced this harmful belief, implying that a woman's role in intimacy is simply to respond, not to lead. This myth suggests that women's sexual pleasure is secondary to men's, or that they should wait for their partner to initiate intimacy. It paints a picture of female sexuality as being reactive rather than active or empowered. The reality is that women's desires are just as valid, strong, and complex as men's. Female sexuality is not a passive force, it's dynamic, full of nuance, and driven by a wide range of emotions and experiences. Women have every right to initiate intimacy, to ask for what they want, and to fully enjoy the pleasure of their own bodies without waiting for permission or for someone else to lead the way. When women are boxed into this myth, it creates an imbalance in relationships where their needs and desires are overlooked or undervalued. This can lead to frustration, resentment, and a lack of satisfaction in both emotional and physical aspects of a relationship. Moreover, this myth strips women of their sexual autonomy, the freedom to own their desires and make decisions about their bodies and experiences. It reinforces the idea that sexuality is something done to women rather than something they actively participate in or they express. In reality, healthy sexual relationships are about equality and mutual pleasure. Women should feel empowered to communicate their desires, explore their sexuality, and engage in intimacy on their own terms, not according to outdated societal norms. In fact, studies have shown that when both partners feel equally comfortable initiating and expressing sexual needs, the relationship is often more fulfilling and balanced. Let's move away from this old narrative and embrace a more modern, liberated view of female sexuality. Here's an example to help bring the point home. Imagine a couple, Sarah and David. They've been together for a few years, and while they are deeply in love, Sarah has always felt like she needs to wait for David to make the first move when it comes to intimacy. She grew up believing that women should be more reserved about their desires and let men take the lead in the bedroom. As a result, Sarah often finds herself waiting even when she really wants to initiate. She sometimes feels unsatisfied because she's holding back her true desires, but she doesn't know how to break free from the idea that it's unladylike to ask for what she wants. One night, Sarah and David have a conversation about their sex life after Sarah visits a coach. She opens up about how she's been feeling and expresses her wish to feel more confident in initiating intimacy. David is surprised. He had no idea that she felt this way and reassures her that he would love for her to take the lead more often. They talk openly about what they enjoy, what they'd like to explore, and how they can make sure that both of them feel fulfilled. After that conversation, Sarah starts feeling more empowered. The next time she feels the spark, instead of waiting for David, she confidently initiates intimacy. She feels more in control, more connected to her desires, and their relationship grows stronger as they find new ways to communicate and meet each other's needs. This example shows how challenging this myth can be in real life, but also how, with open communication and a willingness to break away from outdated ideas, both partners can find a more satisfying and equal dynamic in their relationship. The second myth is that women should always want to please their partner. There's a long standing belief that women's sexuality is primarily about pleasing their partner and meeting their needs while neglecting her own desires. This myth stems from societal conditioning that has historically positioned women as nurturers, always giving and putting others first. When applied to the bedroom, this creates a harmful dynamic where women may feel that they must prioritize their partner's pleasure over their own, leading to feelings of obligation, resentment, and guilt if they don't measure up to those expectations. Sexuality, like any other aspect of a relationship, is a partnership. It's about mutual pleasure, emotional connection, and understanding each other's needs and desires. A healthy sexual relationship involves communication and reciprocity, not one partner always giving and the other always receiving. If a woman is constantly feeling like she has to perform or cater to her partner, that imbalance can cause dissatisfaction, emotional disconnection, and frustration. The key is for both partners to feel equally valued and heard when it comes to their sexual desires. For example, imagine a woman named Priya who always feels the pressure to initiate sex because she knows it's important to her partner. Even when she's not in the mood, she forces herself to go along with it because she doesn't want to disappoint him. Over time, this leads to her feeling disconnected from her own desires, and sex becomes more of a chore than something that she enjoys. One day, she sits down with her partner and opens up, explaining that she feels pressured and guilty when she doesn't feel the same level of desire. Together, they talk about their needs, and her partner reassures her that he wants sex to be a mutual experience, not something she feels she has to do. By having this conversation, they both begin to feel more connected, and Priya feels empowered to express her needs without guilt. And this happened only because she went to a friend and confided in her, and the friend encouraged her to at least have a conversation with her partner. This highlights how essential it is for women to honor their own desires and communicate openly with their partners to create a balanced, fulfilled sexual relationship. When both people feel equally valued, intimacy deepens and resentment fades away. Myth number three: women's sexuality has an expiry date. Another harmful myth is that women's sexuality diminishes as they age. Society often glorifies youth, painting the picture that sexual expression is reserved for younger women, as if there's an invisible expiry date after which women should no longer embrace their sexual selves. This belief is deeply rooted in cultural norms that tie a woman's worth to her physical appearance and youthfulness. The reality is far from this outdated narrative. Women can and do enjoy fulfilling sexual lives at every stage. In fact, many women report feeling more confident and in tune with their sexuality as they grow older. This confidence comes from knowing who they are, being more comfortable in their own skin, and shedding the societal pressures that often come with youth. Sexuality isn't static, it evolves with time, experience, and self awareness. Take the example of a woman in her 50s who may have spent years prioritizing others, her family, whether it was career or maybe her children. As she grows older, her focus shifts to herself. With fewer external pressures and deeper self understanding, she begins to explore her desires without fear of judgment. Many women find that in their later years they are more sexually liberated, experiencing intimacy with a sense of freedom and satisfaction that they may not have had earlier in life. This myth is not only incorrect but damaging. It discourages older women from embracing their sexual selves, leading to unnecessary shame and repression. But the truth is, Sexual fulfillment doesn't have an age limit. It is about connection, desire, and personal growth, none of which are confined to youth alone. Myth number four, good girls don't talk about sex. One of the most ingrained and damaging myths is the idea that good women should stay modest and never openly discuss their sexual needs or desires. This belief creates a sense of shame around sexuality, making women feel that expressing their desires somehow tarnishes their character. It suggests that being sexually confident or vocal is inappropriate and that good girls must always be reserved in this area. The truth is, being open about your sexual desires and needs isn't shameful. It is empowering. When women are encouraged to stay silent, it not only limits their own sexual exploration, but it also affects the overall health of their relationships. Intimacy thrives on communication, and talking about what you want and need in the bedroom can lead to deeper emotional and physical satisfaction. For example, take the case of a woman who has been married for several years, but she has never felt comfortable discussing her sexual desires with her partner. She believed that if she expressed what she wanted, her partner might judge her or think less of her. Over time, this led to frustration and emotional distance in their relationship. When she finally gathered the courage to talk openly about her needs, what she enjoyed, and what she wanted to explore, it completely transformed their connection. Her partner was not only receptive, but grateful for the honesty. They began to communicate more freely, which improved both their emotional bond and their physical intimacy. By normalizing conversations about sex, you break down the barriers that society has put in place and create a space where both partners can feel safe to express themselves fully. It fosters mutual respect and deeper understanding, resulting in more fulfilling sexual experiences. Speaking up about your desires doesn't make you bad. It makes you an active participant in creating a healthy, satisfying relationship. This myth has kept many women from enjoying their full potential as sexual beings. But by rejecting it and embracing openness, you are reclaiming your power. These myths can profoundly affect how women view themselves and their bodies. For instance, the idea that women should be modest about their desires or that their sexuality diminishes with age can lead to feelings of shame or guilt. When a woman internalizes these beliefs, she may start to see her natural sexual desires as something negative, something to be hidden or denied. This shame doesn't just affect her in the bedroom, it can bleed into her self esteem, her sense of worth, and how she expresses herself in other areas of life. Think about it for a second. When a woman feels guilty or ashamed of her desires, it can create a disconnect between who she truly is and how she presents herself to the world. She might hold back in relationships, fearing judgment or rejection, or she may feel like her worth is tied to meeting certain societal expectations. These myths cause insecurity, leading women to believe they aren't good enough or that there's something wrong with them for wanting sexual pleasure or being vocal about their needs. The truth is, these misconceptions put women in a box and limit their potential for self expression and confidence. When a woman believes her desires are valid and not something to be hidden, she begins to step into her authentic self. Releasing the hold that these myths have on us is crucial in unlocking a fuller, more confident version of ourselves. It allows women to not only reclaim their sexual identity, but also to live with greater freedom and joy in every aspect of their lives. So, how do we break free from these myths? It starts with awareness. Recognizing that these beliefs are not facts but rather cultural conditioning is important. From there, it's about embracing self compassion, surrounding yourself with supportive, open minded people, and challenging these old narratives in your daily life. To challenge these myths about women's sexuality, we need to take some practical, empowering steps that allow us to reclaim our narratives and embrace our true sexual selves. Here are some simple but powerful strategies. One of the most effective ways to challenge myths is through knowledge. By educating yourself about your own body and sexuality, you can counter the misinformation that often surrounds these topics. Read some books, listen to podcasts like this one, and have open discussions with trusted sources. For example, if you've been taught that women shouldn't enjoy sex or express their desires, learning about female pleasure and sexual health can help dismantle that belief. You will realize how natural and diverse women's sexual desires truly are. It's also crucial to talk openly about your needs and desires with your partner. Myths about women needing to be passive or silent can be countered by fostering healthy communication. Use I statements to express how you feel and what you want in a way that doesn't feel confrontational. For example, instead of staying quiet during intimate moments because you've been conditioned to think that your pleasure is secondary, try saying, I feel more connected when we communicate about what feels good for both of us. Open those channels of communication and talk to your partner. A lot of times, your partner will understand and respect you from where you're coming. Take time to explore your body and your desires. This could mean solo self care or experimenting with different ways to connect with your partner. By knowing what you enjoy, you can confidently communicate and advocate for your needs. For example, if you've been led to believe that there's a right way to be sexual, remember that your experiences are your own. What works for one person may not work for you, and that's perfectly okay. So accept that. Often these myths they plant seeds of shame that can linger. Start questioning where these feelings come from. Are they from societal expectations, cultural norms, or personal upbringing? Once you identify the source, you can begin to dismantle those beliefs and replace them with healthier, more supportive ones. If you've always felt guilty for wanting more intimacy, remind yourself that there's nothing wrong with enjoying or seeking sexual experiences. You can say to yourself, my desires are valid and I have the right to feel pleasure. Society often tells women that their bodies need to look a certain way to be desirable. This myth can severely impact confidence and sexual expression. Challenge this by practicing body positivity. Celebrate your body for what it is and what it does for you. For example, instead of focusing on what you perceive as imperfections, focus on how your body feels during these intimate moments. This shifts the narrative from appearance to sensation and pleasure. And last, surround yourself with people who understand and support your journey towards sexual empowerment. Whether it is a group of friends, a coach, a therapist, or online communities, having a safe space to discuss these issues is essential for breaking down myths. For example, talking to others who have gone through similar experiences can be incredibly validating. You'll see that you're not alone in unlearning these myths, and together you can lift each other up. These strategies are all about taking back control, being kind to yourself, and recognizing that your sexual identity is your own to define. Remember, the key to breaking these myths is to start small and be consistent with challenging outdated beliefs that no longer serve you. As we've explored today, the myths around women's sexuality can be deeply ingrained, but they don't have to define us. By educating ourselves, practicing self compassion, and opening up conversations, we can begin to break free from these limiting beliefs. It's about owning your desires, embracing your body, and giving yourself permission to experience pleasure without guilt or shame. I encourage you to take some time this week to reflect on the myths that might be holding you back and start challenging them one by one. Remember, your sexuality is unique and personal, and you have every right to express it fully. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to share it with someone who might need to hear these truths too. Let's continue to build this community of support and empowerment. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast, leave a comment, and join the conversation. Your feedback and questions are always welcome. And I request each woman to share this with another woman and spread the word, as this can be very empowering and encouraging for all those women who are not embracing themselves and their sexuality. Thanks for tuning in to the Love Soul Connection podcast. I am Meeta, and I'll be back next week with more insights and real talk on love, intimacy, and relationships. Until next time, take care of yourself and keep challenging these myths.